You're listening to the Seahawks Insiders, getting you ready for Seahawks football every Sunday. Presented by Delta, the official airline of the Seahawks. Now, here's your host, Jen Mueller.
It is a holiday version of the Seahawks Insiders podcast. I mean, technically every week with John Boyle is a holiday, but it is actually a holiday week this week, John.
Did you bring pie?
No, I haven't made the pie yet. There will be two pies at my house.
Pies, right? That's
I do.
One of your things?
Yes,
okay.
And pecan pie is a must at my house. I can do without pumpkin. I like pumpkin. I like all pies, but pecan pie.
Mike McDonald on the radio there, they said it's pecan.
Well,
or did I have that wrong? He definitely clarified his pronunciation. I forget what she said now.
There's many different pronunciations. Here's what I'm willing to say. I am willing to tell people that they are wrong right up until that person is like a 300-pound lineman in our locker room and I'm standing face to face with them. And then I will say, we will agree to disagree.
And especially if it's a matter of food.
Right? I mean, there's certain things I'm just
never
not going to die on that hill.
On food.
I am not going to die on that hill. That is for sure. The Seahawks are coming off of, I don't know if they needed a bounce back win. And actually, Mike McDonald said, we're not trying to bounce back from anything. We're just trying to play our game. The game in Tennessee did not look like I think some people anticipated. But, John, I would argue that in many statistical categories, it's exactly what they needed.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's things we talk about this team was struggling with at different points of the season. Turnovers, 12 in the previous 4 games. They had none. Now, granted, the ball was a little bit in jeopardy at times, but still, you play a turnover-free game. That's a big deal. We've talked about the run game a whole bunch. They've been running the ball better. Really goes back to the last few games, but that yards per carry average over 5. Like, these are important things where they didn't run the ball a ton that game, but you didn't see a lot. There's that one in the red zone that really hurt, but you didn't see a lot of those runs where they were just dead in the backfield.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. It does not look like a lot when you see the net rushing yards were 114 for that game, but when you consider that it was on 20 carries, it was actually their second highest yards per carry average of the year. It's exactly what you were hoping for and kind of what they've been building up to the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, again, we heard from Mike on this week, but it's like it's been improving gradually over these last few weeks to where, they're not suddenly the best running team in the league, but they're getting closer to where they want to be. And when you start talking about, big games down the stretch, cold weather, like that's going to be huge if they can lean on that run game more down the stretch. As good as Sam Darnold has been, it'd be really nice to have a more reliable run game.
Well, and when you look at all of the different elements of a run game, there's a lot that goes into it. But there was one word that Mike McDonald used that I thought was very interesting in relation to Ken Walker's game.
He was decisive running the football on his tracks and making fast decisions, which was great. He got us out of a couple tough situations. And then I felt him in the pass game. I was talking about earlier when Sam got, later on his progressions, finding Ken late in the down to create a couple explosives for us, and Zach for that matter. But we got to keep doing that, find him in the pass game and keep the running game going. But he played fast. Some great plays on the sideline. Some plays on the sideline we want to play a little bit better and finish plays a little bit in a better position, but on the right track for sure.
I think when we hear Mike McDonald say decisive, I think that's very tied to Mike McDonald telling us in the last couple weeks he's earned more opportunities. Because, look, one of the coolest things about Ken Walker's game, what makes him so special, is the ability to make guys miss, to improvise, to reverse the field in the backfield. And that still is always going to be part of his game. But to run in this system, there needs to be times that we heard on his track. We heard Ken Walker talk to you about that after the game in your post-game interview, and it's in this scheme, like there's certain times like you just got to go where you're supposed to go, trust the blocking, and you might not pop a home run, but you're going to get 6, 8, 9 yards. And we've seen a lot more of those runs for Ken Walker in these last few weeks. And, again, you mix in the playmaking ability with a little bit more of those decisive runs, and that's where I think we're seeing the numbers improve.
Here's where I think that comes into play this week. When you take a look at a Vikings team that, look, by the overall record at 4-7, that is a disappointment for Vikings fans coming off the year that they had last year, by the way, with Sam Darnold at the helm.
Wait, no way.
But
he's playing his former team this week?
I know. This is crazy. And when you look at the strength of this Vikings team, it has to be on the defensive side of the ball. The Vikings have forced 40 rushing attempts to go for negative yards this season. And Seattle had a big problem with this early in the year, I would say, right up until you start getting those decisive runs in the last couple of weeks. So I think all of this is coming together at the right time for a lot of different reasons, but particularly against a Vikings defense that they can do some damage and they can force you into some negative situations.
Yeah, that's a really talented defense. They do a lot of cool things pass rush wise, but also in the run game. There's tons of talent out there. So as much as the Vikings aren't where they want to be record wise, they've lost 5 of 6. They can still be really tricky on an offense if you're not on top of things.
It is interesting when you look at the Vikings, and because this is a holiday week, we have not yet talked to Sam Darnold about facing his former team. Otherwise, we would be telling you all sorts of stories about this. We just don't have them yet. We're not going to get a chance to talk to him until a little bit later. I'm sure that he will say it is just another game.
Yeah, you don't think he's going to say he's out for blood?
I wouldn't.
I'm out to prove they made a big mistake when they let me go. Yeah, that doesn't seem like Sam.
I wouldn't think so. However, I do think it is fair to say he has proven that last year was not a fluke.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think a lot of us, I've said this, and a lot of other people, when they made that move, is like, can you get this version of him, or can he be close to that version of what he was last year? He's been better by any measure. He has been a better quarterback than the guy who was really good helping the team go 14-3 last year. So people wondered how real was what he did in Minnesota. Was it all just Kevin O'Connell being this quarterback whisperer? No. Sam Darnold's showing he is a darn good quarterback who took some time to get going, in part because he was put in a bad situation like a lot of young quarterbacks going to teams that have high picks are. And it's really cool to see guys. We saw Geno Smith here. We've seen other guys do it where it's like, just because whatever that first chapter of your career doesn't work out doesn't mean you're done.
Yes, and to me, that is also where you learn perseverance in a different light, and you learn that bounce back in a different way, right? Because you've been forced to, whether it's been over the course of your career, over the course of seasons, or even if we look at last week. The numbers weren't perfect against Tennessee, but to prove that Sam does have that resiliency that you need, I would say that, again, he did exactly what you were hoping he was going to do.
Exactly. And to me, less than any numbers or, again, it wasn't his cleanest game in terms of completion percentage. And there are a couple throws you're like, ooh, that maybe could have been picked. What stood out the most to me in that game is after a really rough outing when he had 4 interceptions, he wasn't gun shy. Yep. He was still cutting it loose, making those throws downfield. Some of them turning really big plays to JSN. So he wasn't rattled by what happened the week before. It didn't change his approach. He still went out and attacked and made some great plays.
Well, and it's not just the run game that had one of their highest rushing yards per attempt. The entire offense, it was the 3rd highest yards per play of any game this season. I think you might have said it earlier, 7.5. That's pretty good. You did what you were supposed to do against Tennessee, and Sam Darnold did what he was supposed to do.
Well, I thought there's several situations where he's working through his progressions and getting to number 3, including the backs, to keep the ball moving forward. I thought those were great plays for us. And then, identifying opportunities to throw it downfield that, obviously the man covers the jacks to really spark the day was great. And I thought he made some great decisions in the red zone. I mean, even the play at the end of the half to Jacks right there on the back line, I thought was a great play call and great execution by our guys, and we're inches away from scoring a touchdown there at the end of the half, and with the ability to double up going into the second half.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off what you said about like the yards per play in that game, and that reminded me. I feel like we're kind of sleeping on how good this offense has been because we talk so much about the defense, rightly so, and all those other things. Like this team, they're 3rd in the league in scoring. They are 2nd in yards per play for the whole season, like a fraction behind Indianapolis. They're 7th in yards. Like they're doing everything so well. They lead the league in 40-plus yard completions, and they're 4th in 20-plus yard completions, while throwing the 31st amount of pass attempts. Like that's some crazy efficiency in this offense. And again, Sam Darnold, huge part of that, but everyone around him is doing their part, and the Clint Kubiak deserves a lot of credit as well.
Well, I think the other part of that is we spent a lot of time talking about JSN, and for good reason, right? And the amount of attempts that he is getting and the looks that he's getting. In fact, it is one of the highest in the NFL, like wide receivers and how they contribute to an offense. But I do think that there's a lot more to it, because if the game plan was just to get the ball to JSN, everybody would just double up JSN and you would never be able to get to the ball to him. There has to be balance in order for him to be getting those numbers.
Yeah, we hear that from Mike McDonald a lot. We hear it from JSN himself. Is like, obviously, volume-wise, he's getting a huge amount of the targets, but it's still a team, like a function of the guys around him. It's the threat that guys provide. It's the play designs that make it hard. I mean, it's really easy to say, oh, we just double him or we just always have safety help. Like, they do stuff the way they motion him, the route concepts. It's just not always that easy to cover him the way you want to. And the protection has to be there to make those things happen. There's just so many different things that are leading to both tons of offensive success and also just an insane season for JSN.
Well, and if you've missed it, he is the first player in the NFL, in NFL history, I should say, with at least 75 receiving yards in the first 11 games of the season. He is trying to join Marvin Harrison and Cooper Kupp as the only ones to have that number in 12 straight games. He has already set a franchise record. He could become the first wide receiver to 2,000 yards in NFL history. The small asterisk is he's got another game to do that in than some of the other guys who have topped those marks before. I will also say this, John. The Vikings have the 7th best passing defense in the league. They allow just 186 yards per game through the air. JSN on his own has been getting like 126, 160. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out this week and what they can do against the Seahawks offense.
Yeah, I mean, so far, it's wild to me how at this point in the season, everyone knows he's getting the ball, and so there's no disrespect to Minnesota's defense, but like I've yet to see a team really take him out of a game. He's even had like a slow half, but then he'll bounce back with a big second half. So, I think, again, what we said earlier, this defense is going to be a big test, but I like our chances against anybody the way the passing game's going.
We could talk about JSN for a long time, but right now we are going to pause for this word from our presenting sponsor.
Seattle is a city wired for change, where innovation drives the everyday, and Delta is proud to invest in that momentum. With nonstop flights to over 60 global destinations from Seattle, Delta connects you to the world with thoughtfully designed cabins, premium service, and a seamless travel experience, all while supporting the community you call home. So your travel time feels more like me time. Delta, flying Seattle forward. Visit delta.com or download Delta's app to book your next trip.
I have to rearrange my notes, John, because we had some roster moves come in. This is a little bit of a back to the future, because by the time you're watching this, you might have already gotten the alert from Seahawks.com. We are getting this in real time, and it's actually worth pausing the conversation and going back just a little bit, because these roster moves, they could definitely play into what we see on Sunday. It also indicates just kind of the health of the team right now. The biggest ones for you are?
Well, they added a veteran running back with George Holani injured, Cam Akers, who Seahawks fans probably remember from his time with the Rams, but also spent time with the Vikings this season. So kind of a little interesting wrinkle there. And then the big name fans are going to get very excited about. Quandre Diggs signed to the practice squad. As everyone knows now, teams can have veterans on their practice squad. Is a good way to kind of get them ramped up to speed with a new team. But we'll see how soon they need him, because Ty Okada is coming off an injury. Yeah. We don't know yet if Julian Love is going to be back this week. He's eligible to return, but Mike McDonald made it clear they want to make sure he's really ready when they bring him back. And then there's a few other practice squad moves. Patrick O'Connell got a well-deserved promotion off the practice squad to the 53-man roster. Played really well in his first, starting reps type game. Shaq Griffin also got the promotion off the practice squad. So he's up on the 53. And then, an interesting one for long-term, we're not going to see him on the field anytime right away, but Riley Mills, the rookie at Notre Dame, is returning to practice this week, which is pretty cool to see, because he's a guy that, is probably, a lot better than a 5th-round pick talent when the Seahawks drafted him, except he was coming off an ACL. So he's a guy that can add to that rotation maybe late in the season and could have a really bright future for this team.
That means some new faces to get to learn this week. I'm
and
very excited.
I didn't even cover every
this.
single. People have to go to Seahawks.com and read the rest of the practice squad moves, because there's too many to.
Or sign up for notifications on Seahawks.com.
You
can
get
get everything
app
that
will
John
send you a
writes.
notification when this gets published.
Yes. That's probably redundant. Yeah. They've already done that.
And you know what? By the time they're listening, they might have already got the notification. This is hopefully old news to them.
Yeah.
Because they are eagerly awaiting those notifications.
This is podcast magic, though, folks. We are reacting in real time. Okay.
Every week is podcast magic,
That
Jen.
is true. That is true. Let's take a
Anyway.
look, though, on the defensive side of things. Okay, so we've got Quandre, and that move is taken care of kind of the back end. We know that there's some pieces, but how about one of the guys that was playing in the trenches this week, and Byron Murphy, and that game that he had against the Titans? And it's so fun to shout these guys out because I'll be honest, when I'm watching from the sidelines, all you see is a mass of bodies in the middle of the line. You can see who's getting the high fives on the sideline. You can see who gets like the extra attaboys. I can't see until I go back and actually watch the game. And it's impressive what he's doing.
He's been really good. I mean, really this whole season, but this game, and I feel like the last few games, you're right. Sometimes he's played even from the press box. If it's a run like that 4th down run, Brandon Peely got the stop. You don't know in the moment who even got there because it's just this mass of bodies. But one thing that's really stood out with Byron Murphy is like there seems to be a play every game where there's a guy in space that could be hitting hole. And the big number 91 comes flying out of nowhere. He shows the athletic ability and the speed more than you maybe would think for a guy his stature, because he'll make some big plays where he's running a quarterback down or running a running back down on a screen. He's been awesome this year.
I wonder how much of this, too, is competition within that position group. So I was talking to Steve Hutchinson, was on our sideline, Hall of Fame offensive lineman, and I was talking about just kind of these little things that you're seeing from the offensive line, like the hustling to the line of scrimmage and just some intentionality that seems to be so evident. And he goes, here's what happens. What happens when you have a group of guys that like each other and that are pushing each other, you find all of these silly little ways to compete. And it was like breaking the huddle fast and beating somebody to the line of scrimmage. That's one of those silly little things that you do, but it's raising the competition level for everybody else. Mm-hmm. You've already got a guy like Leo, and when Jaron Reed is out there kind of setting the tone. And so I wonder, part of what we're seeing from Byron, not that he's not talented enough on his own, but that in that room, you're just finding these little ways with each other to be right on the top.
Oh, for sure. They're all pushing each other, because when you have that much talent in there and just that many guys who are kind of that, like, you all come into the NFL. If you're that caliber, you were the dude in college. Like, you were that alpha. You were the stud on your team. And now it's like, it's not unhealthy, but it's like they're all pushing like, hey, man, I'm going to make the play here. And it's not in a selfish way. We hear that all the time about the way this team pass rushes is very unselfish. So it's not hurting the team, but it does, I think, drive guys. And really, it even goes beyond the position groups. I can't remember who I asked about this, but I heard somebody use the term we want to be the tip of the spear.
I feel like Leo says that frequently.
And I'm like, that's funny, because I've heard like AJ Barner say about tight ends. I've seen Brady Russell say that about special teams. Everyone wants to be the tip of the spear. And I asked that question, and it was like, yeah, that's a good thing. If like every position group thinks the DB is like, they think they're the guy. Like every group on this team,
that's true,
thinks like we're the group leading this, and that I think that can be really good for a team.
It could be.
Or
this sounds very dangerous.
Spear.
It's very pointy. There's a lot of edges on that one.
It's hard to hold.
We can sing Byron Murphy's praises, but we can also hear what Coach had to say.
That was one of Byron's best games. I thought he was dominant. The play he made on 4th and short was just an incredible play. Really took on 3 defenders, set the point of attack. I thought he rushed really well. There's some times where we have to augment our communication with him and up front of what we intend to do and how we intend to work together, but he's playing at a really high level right now, and I'm happy to see it.
Take a look at who this defense is going to face this week. We thought it was going to be J.J. McCarthy. He goes into concussion protocol. We won't know until later in the week what his status is. So we are going to have Max Brosmer, it looks like, at quarterback for the Vikings. I don't know what to expect from Brosmer. Here's what I do know so far, John. That Vikings quarterbacks, because it hasn't just been McCarthy, Carson Wentz was in there.
Before he got hurt.
Have been sacked 27 times this year. And so far, Minnesota is ranked 31st in the NFL when it comes to third down conversions on offense at just over 30%. What else can we add to that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, when you have a new quarterback, there's always that bit of mystery. They really like what they got out of Max Brosmer, in the preseason. The way the Seahawks are playing defense this year, I kind of feel like it's just like, hey, we don't care who the quarterback is. We saw that when they faced, whether it was Kyler Murray one game and Brissett the other game for the Cardinals. So to me, it's just this defense do what they need to do. The pass rush has been awesome. They haven't been a team that blitzes a lot, but I'm sure Mike will cook up a few things for his fellow Centennial High graduate. Random little side note.
Way to pull that one out, John.
Head coach and quarterback, same high school, about a decade apart. But yeah, to me, this defense, and we could talk all day about how well they're defending the run. That's kind of been their bread and butter all season. But yeah, it's just go do your thing and make it hard on a rookie quarterback and on the road.
Well, you take away that run game and you jump out to an early lead, and that makes it really difficult. Mm-hmm. The Seahawks have not allowed a 100-yard rusher in 20 consecutive games. I hesitate to say that. People get very superstitious about some of those numbers, but that is not a lucky thing. They have been consistently good at defending a blade of grass. So.
Yeah, that group up front has just been so good at that. And shout out to the edge guys, because the way they do it, like if you don't have guys like Chenna and D-Law able to do what they're doing, they're not loading the box.
Right.
And they're still stopping the run at a crazy rate.
And they are still allowing just 3.8 yards a rush per rush attempt. That is third best in the NFL. How about this for the Seahawks? 17 players with at least a half sack.
I literally just looked this up. We didn't even talk about it. Most in the league.
I know. It's crazy. And here's what I'm thinking. Derek Hall just got his first sack on Sunday.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Do you know how much he's been around the quarterback all year long?
I know.
It's unreal.
When Mike McDonald was asked about that for the game, him getting his first sack, and Mike just seemed like genuinely stunned by it because he has played so well this season, and to not have a sack, it's just weird the way their pass rush works sometimes. But yeah, as you mentioned, 17 guys have at least half a sack. That's most in the NFL. I think they have 5 guys with 3 or more sacks. Like they're spreading the wealth for sure. It's fun to watch those guys work.
They are rolling.
And Jaron Reed doesn't have one. That's another guy you would expect to be in there.
That is true.
So he's going to get back from his injury. He'll make it at 18.
Can we get to 20?
I think so.
I would think. Well, you get some of these guys, but we're game planning for different weeks. I'm problem solving 4 weeks from now. Let's not do that. Let's do this. Let's take a break to hear a word from our presenting sponsor. We'll come back and wrap up the episode.
Seahawks fans, 12 Status is back benefiting you this season. 1 passing yard gets you 1 mile all Seahawks season long. 12 Status members get priority boarding out of SeaTac all Seahawks season long. And 12 Status members get a 12% discount at the Seahawks Pro Shop on the 12th of each month. Sign up now at 12status.com.
Okay, John, we need 2 things for a Seahawks win on Sunday. I think you and I might have at least one of these that are the same.
Well, now I'm just going to get weird.
That's even better. We like giving people something different to look for, but I suspect, because there's one thing we have not talked about yet today, that they have to be better at than they were last week.
Well, I don't know if this is where you're going, but I want to see them get some takeaways, because this is a team that, as good as this defense is, they're not, they've done okay, but they didn't have any last week. They only had one the week before. They won a couple games, Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, they didn't have one. So as good as this defense is, that's maybe where I just think, let's get greedy, and especially with a rookie quarterback, get some pressure on him, get the ball away. And then I want to see, I really like what we've seen from Ken Walker, and I just want to see more of that run game, because I do think more so than just this game, I think if that run game can become what it is, what it can be, that's so big for this offense going forward.
You and I did not have either of the same ones. I thought you might go to penalties. I thought you were going to go to penalties. I was
thinking red zone too.
11 penalties in Tennessee. That's the second most this year. You cannot do that. You have to stay on schedule. You cannot shoot yourself in the foot, because the Minnesota Vikings have 20 players with at least 1 tackle for loss this season. That is tied for the second most in the league. You've got 7 players with 5 TFLs. You do not want to already put yourself behind the sticks and then have to deal with a fairly aggressive defense on that front. So
I like that.
To me, limit your penalties, make sure that you are gaining positive yards. And if I had to throw in one more thing, Minnesota has 2 blocked field goals this season. Ooh. So solid on special teams, which we've seen plenty of this year, but take advantage of that at home.
You know what I will say? I think sometimes when teams are really good and really aggressive, I'm a little more willing to live with penalties. I don't want the pre-snap. We had too many false starts.
Yeah, there were too many. It looked sloppy. Yeah,
it did.
There was some sloppiness.
But you know who led the NFL in penalties in 2013?
It was us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So that's okay.
Sometimes when you're that good, aggressive, what the phrase they use, they want to play a style nobody wants to play against. Sometimes penalties happen. But pre-snap, I'm giving you that 100% because there were way too many false starts.
There was too many that were just...
Those are no good. Get rid of those.
We agree with that. That's just a coaching point, and that's really relevant for every level of football. Okay, that is going to do it for our conversation. Hope that you have plenty of turkey and leftovers. Lots of conversations. We'll be back for another Seahawks conversation and another episode of the Seahawks Insiders podcast next week.